Welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
Hello and welcome to the MMA boxing crossover YouTube misfits. What the hell are we doing here show? I'm joined by Stu Whiffin. How you doing, mate?
I'm all right. What an intro.
Intro.
What a big jumbled up world of news we've just come off the back of UFC 299, which was glorious and everything mixed martial arts should be. But we had to do a show because obviously the big man himself, Francis Ngannou, continued to add another chapter to what's going to be one of the greatest fight movies ever made in Hollywood at some point. And we also had a huge bit of news, which it's impossible not to discuss, right? And before we get into it, we're just going to get back to a little bit of normality before we enter the realms of madness again. Big thanks to Ferocious Fightwear. They're the sponsors of the MMA Fan Show. If you're watching this now on YouTube, you can go and check out a nice little rash guard there and some wraps there and a gum shield. So if you're not watching that and you're just listening, trust us, it's good. So what you need to do is head over to ferociousfightwear.com, and whilst you're there, you can have a right good mooch around and buy yourself some great stuff. Should we get back into the weird world? The weird
madness world of it all. Oh, you want to start with this?
Yes.
Okay, I was not expecting to start with this.
I've just pulled up a picture there of Iron Mike Tyson. Looking in good shape for a 57-year-old man. I think maybe he was 56 then or 55. That was, I believe, walking
was that the Roy Jones fight?
After the Roy Jones Jr. fight. Yeah. Which was an exhibition type match. An old Mike Tyson versus an old Roy Jones Jr., arguably two of the greatest boxers of all time. I would definitely say that Roy Jones Jr. is definitely one of the greatest to ever do it. And as far as heavyweight boxing goes, the most terrifying man on the planet was Iron Mike Tyson in his prime. Now, ironic that we should say the word prime. I didn't plan that, by the way.
Well done.
It's just how I roll,
really
mate.
Well
just
really
shooting
well
from the hip with these kind of anecdotes.
And
he's going to fight Jake Paul.
Yeah. I was expecting to start. I was expecting to start on Ngannou and AJ, but we obviously will get to that. I don't know what to say about this fight. I have zero interest in it. I'll put it that way. Also, but I'm saying that as someone that's not a huge boxing fan. Like, I knew we were going to be doing this episode, so I paid my money for the AJ Ngannou pay-per-view. Had we not been doing this show, I probably wouldn't have done that. Yeah. I would have just gone on Twitter and gone, oh, wow, well, look what happened there. And that was it. And I'm perfectly happy with that. I'll pay money for MMA. I love MMA. But this, I don't know. I have no interest in it. Tyson's pushing 60. Jake Paul has shown that he is a capable boxer at a lower level, particularly when he's fighting people that are a lot smaller than him and either old or from a different sport or whatever. I don't discredit Jake Paul's ability as a fledgling boxer that is like fine but would never be a champion realistically. But we've seen that when he went in there against, say, like Tommy Fury, who also is another guy that, like, can you see Tommy Fury being a world champion one day?
No, not in a zillion years.
I remember Eddie Hearn being in an interview and saying that he wouldn't ever be a British champion. So the fact that Jake Paul lost to him, I think makes us go, okay, well, we know where Jake Paul is. I know he had a fight recently against a guy I'd never heard of and smashed him up inside a round or two. The interesting thing, the most interesting thing about this whole fight announcement for me is that it's on Netflix. And as far as I'm aware, not pay-per-view, but like just subscription.
He's a smart guy.
Jake Paul is a very, very, very smart businessman. Like, to take nothing. You can say he's a rubbish boxer, and compared to world champions, you are probably right. But in terms of prize fighting and making your money from the little or the amount of talent that you have or whatever within that game, this guy is incredible. He is never really legitimately going to be like a world champion unless certain dominoes fall kindly for him, whatever, I don't know. Yeah, he's someone that is a YouTuber, was on like Disney stuff or something when he was younger, and has gone into boxing and has absolutely smashed it by beating up MMA guys, by making a big storm about it on social media. And now it looked like he was on the journey to try and be a bit legitimate, to try and go, okay, I've lost to Tommy Fury. I'm now going to fight low-level boxing guys. Because also, to give him credit, the boxing model is not the MMA model. You don't fight killers all the time. You fight low-level guys, build a 20-0 record before you really fight anyone of note. And your careers are managed in a really, really safe way. Whereas in MMA, it's just go out there. Losses don't mean that much. You can go out there and lose a few times and still go on and become a Cage Warriors champion, a UFC fighter, a ranked guy, whatever. I mean, look at the likes of Charles Oliveira, who's one of the most exciting champions we've ever had in the UFC. He's lost a ton of fights before becoming champion. So it's a different sport, and it's always the best fighting the best a lot in MMA, and you're fighting people on your level all the time. Boxing is not that way. So him going out there and fighting what people would consider to be cans as boxers and building a resume, nothing wrong with that in the world of boxing. That is how it works. And I thought that was the pathway he was on, fighting low-level guys. And now he's taking on a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. Now, well, he's not 60 yet, but he's not far off. Is it business-wise, entertainment-wise, particularly being on Netflix, is it going to do big numbers? Absolutely.
Can you imagine the sponsorship deals?
The paycheck that he will get, and probably Tyson as well, from this being on Netflix is probably astronomical. I'd imagine it's huge. And there's no way Netflix or whatever would have paid for Jake Paul versus, I don't know, really low-level guy that no one's heard of that's got a 2-8 record or whatever the hell it would be.
Netflix ain't paying for Jake Paul, Ben Askren. No. They're not interested. Mike Tyson is a name that everybody knows. It's a household name. The minute you think Mike Tyson, you do think arguably the most ferocious heavyweight to ever do it. Mm-hmm. You also think troubled soul. Mm-hmm. You know, he's had so many times he has spiraled as a human being into multiple different things. That's why there's been films made about him. I believe there's a TV show about him on Disney or Apple.
Yes, I haven't seen it yet.
And, you know, he's been very upfront and open. And any time I see him talking about his career now, he's mangled on weed on his podcast. I'm of an age where I got to watch Mike Tyson in his prime. And he was the most exciting thing ever. Now, the thing that's being passed around on socials is a clip of him, I think, in the lead up to the Roy Jones fight, on the pads. Now, he looks incredible hitting them pads for about 7 seconds, right? Now, I'm a fucking mess of an old guy, but I put on a pair of gloves, and I reckon with a bit of clever filming, I could look all right on the pads for 6 seconds. That guy you see on the pads looking ferocious, he's not the guy that we saw fight Roy Jones Jr. You know, we saw a much different fighter because he's an old man.
Well, go on here.
So I've had I was having conversations with people at the weekend just going, Tyson would knock him out. And I just think, well, no, Tyson's not going to knock him out because, yes, this is Jake Paul, right? So Jake Paul is a decent enough boxer from what I've seen. I don't really follow his boxing career.
I don't know enough about boxing to really comment. I go a lot by what other people say, and a lot of people say he's not that great.
Yeah, but I don't think he's that bad. And the bottom line is he's ridiculously wealthy, so he can have the best trainers, the best dietitians, the best in everything to ensure that he can put in 7 days a week work and have the best opportunities, far greater than any other amateur boxer or low-level professional boxer. So I do think we're seeing him become competent at that level.
Yes, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, absolutely.
For me, I think there's boxers out there like, I don't know, somebody like, for instance, off the top of my head, I don't know, fight someone like Kelbrook or maybe Calzaghe, somebody that's not fast approaching 60. You know, I mean, Kelbrook probably he's a bit too good.
Kelbrook's, I mean, is he too small as well?
Yeah, he is too small.
But that doesn't stop Jake Paul.
It doesn't stop Jake Paul. Look at Ben Askren. I could fit him in my pocket.
But they're not names, are they? They're not like, no one across the pond is going to go, oh, Joe Calzaghe's fighting, other than like boxing aficionados. I don't know. He's not a household name.
It's not Mike Tyson.
He's, you know, as you say, there's movies, TV shows made about this man.
Yeah.
It doesn't fill me with any real joy. I'm interested to see the Netflix thing, just to see if Netflix is really getting into live sport, because they've just made a deal with the WWE to show SmackDown or Raw, one of the shows that they do once a week. So the Netflix are getting into the live sport thing. As an actor, it's a little bit scary because I want them to keep making original content so I can hopefully get a job. But in terms of the live sport thing, it seems to be the way to go. And especially if they're not doing it on a pay-per-view model, it's great for the athletes involved to get the exposure. I'm assuming they're getting paid big money even without pay-per-view, because Netflix is a huge company.
Look,
it's good business.
Everything.
Is it right?
No, it's not right. It's not right.
Isn't it? There's a sadness
to
this guy who's 58 years old, 57 years old, what he is, who used to be a world champion, going and doing this. I mean, he must be making a packet. Good on him.
The build-up and everything's going to be fun, and it's going to be loads of highlight reels of Mike Tyson from 1986. And it's going to be this massive kind of thing. Netflix are going to be all over it. It's going to be a spectacle. But then when the event happens, someone's going to get that little plug and go, and it's going to go, and everyone's going to be left deflated, going, oh, that fella off of YouTube knocked out that old man.
Yeah.
It's arguably, from what I gather, Netflix are in talks with that old guy that Connor hit in a bar for not drinking his whiskey. That's going to be the next Netflix live young buck hitting an elderly guy. I mean, it's pathetic. It's sad. It's tragic. And it's on Netflix. I got a subscription. I'll be watching.
Well, that is the thing. If this was on pay-per-view on any platform, I would not pay for it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay for it. Whereas if it's on Netflix, I probably will watch it. So it's going to do massive
Jake
numbers.
Paul thinking? What is he thinking? He can't come out of this looking good.
I think Jake Paul comes out of it with a boatload of money, with contacts at Netflix, with Mike Tyson down on his resume, which just looks good and impressive, I guess. If you delve into it, obviously it's not necessarily, but it's something more exciting than him versus unknown guy from wherever.
Do you think he just wants people talking about him?
Of course.
That's got to be it, because no one is going to be...
He's doing this for the money, though.
Yeah.
He's going to earn so much money off this fight. And as I said, I think Mike Tyson probably will as well. But... So there's reasons for him to do it from a selfish point of view, but ethically, is it the greatest thing in the world when you've got, as I said, he could give brain trauma to a man who's nearly 60. It doesn't sit right with me. And going back to that thing of the pads you said, have you seen how there's like a fact checker thing on X over the last couple of years or year, whatever it's been, where someone will put up something, it'll do the rounds for a bit, but then all of a sudden when it gets to you, if you hadn't seen it within the first few hours or whatever, there's a fact checker thing underneath saying like, oh, this video footage of, say, a conflict somewhere in the world is actually not what it says it is. It's from 5 years ago in a different place or whatever it was. And there's loads. There was a fact checker thing underneath.
Not about me on the pads.
about Mike Tyson on the pads that Jake Paul put out. And it was so glaringly obvious and it just felt a bit gross that Jake Paul has tweeted, I'm fighting Mike Tyson. And let me put up this video of him, I think it was about 4 years ago, hitting the pads where he actually does look kind of good. As a way of going to his fans who will believe it. Oh, this man's still a killer. This man's still great. This is much better than me fighting someone my own age or whatever it is and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, then fact checker comes in and goes, this was from 4 years ago, not recently. And it was all this other stuff. And it was just like, oh, so you're already just lying to people trying to manipulate them into thinking it's something that it's not. And yeah, it's upsetting.
That's already laid the foundations, and people are going, oh, God, he looks mean. And then by the time the machine gets on it, and all of a sudden it's all of that highlight knockout reel of Mike Tyson biting Evander Holyfield, kicking off with Lennox Lewis at face-offs and stuff like that. The whole thing is just going to get blown into this massive, media circus. But ultimately, Jake Paul's got to answer the questions, which is, well, this is a bit pathetic, isn't it? I
don't think he does. That's what I think. I don't think he will answer those questions, and that's the thing. I don't think he's going to massively have those questions asked to him, because I think nowadays with media in general, I think you can sort of manipulate it in a way that you like. There's fewer and fewer maybe media outlets asking the right questions out there, or the tough questions out there of these people. A lot of these things are going to be manned by people that maybe Jake Paul is like, well, they're friends of mine, they're in this business, they work for my company, whatever. So they're going to be asking the questions. I don't know. Is someone from the Guardian Sport going to be over in Dallas, where I think this fight's taking place, asking Jake Paul, do you feel okay about this man being nearly 60 and you're fighting him, you're a 26-year-old bloke or whatever? Do you not see the problems with that? I don't think that's going to be asked of him. Maybe it will. Maybe I'm wrong. But I just don't think he's going to have to face those questions. I think it's going to be, what a night it was. I just knocked out Mike Tyson. What an incredible, he was such a hero of mine and my dad's and all this kind of stuff. But, I've knocked him out. It just shows the levels I'm at and I'm improving and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And that'll be it.
Are there any positives to this?
For Jake Paul, yeah. But for me but again, I'm not a huge boxing fan. So I don't care. I care in terms of, this feels a bit gross because of Tyson's age. But I don't care. I have no problem with YouTube boxers. I have no problem with Misfits boxing and all that stuff. Like, fill your boots. Go and fight KSI and Tommy Fury and whoever else. And great, have a laugh. That's fine. Make your money. But when it's a combat sport and you're like, let's get a guy pushing 60 against a guy that's not even 30 yet, it just feels wrong to me. It doesn't matter about the levels. That just, again, Father Time catches up with everyone. If you were the greatest boxer of all time, but now you're 60 fighting a guy that
grandfather time.
That's what I'm saying. It's just not right. I wouldn't want it in MMA. I love the idea of like a little Legends League in MMA, but I'm talking about men and women in their 40s fighting other men and women in their 40s. Like, I'm not interested in 60 or late 50s going up against people half their age. It just feels wrong to me.
Yeah.
So
the craziness continued. Friday night, we saw another chapter in the Hollywood blockbuster that will be the Francis Ngannou story, where after a fantastic performance against Tyson Fury a few months back, kept the boxing gloves on, stayed away from MMA, and fought Anthony Joshua, who's now got, he's got a new trainer, and he seems to have got himself back on track after the loss to Usyk, and we saw what I didn't think was going to happen on Friday night. Now you went and watched this with your brother, didn't you?
I did. He'd have paid me 20 quid and got it on the box office. I mean, it's fine, wasn't it? It was like, it kind of went the way that I think a lot of us thought the Fury fight would go.
Yep.
I don't know what this does about the Fury fight in terms of people's eyes. In hindsight, do you look at the Fury fight and go, Fury definitely wasn't training for that fight, was he? Because he should have done Ngannou what Joshua did.
I sort of disagree.
Do you disagree? Go on, tell us.
I think AJ watched that fight a lot. And I think, it's Ben Davis, isn't it, his trainer?
I think so.
I think he would have watched that a lot, because I think what we thought was going to happen in the Fury fight was he was going to go steamrolling in and Fury was just going to pick him off. But he didn't. He fought far more defensively and sort of brought in Fury and countered Fury. And I think in them sort of, when they tied up, I think like Ngannou's power was pretty prevalent. And I think that's what, because for me, like Tyson, the way that he boxes, moving like a middleweight for such a big man, I thought that was going to be the interest, the thing that was going to dominate the fight, and it didn't. And I thought somebody like AJ, who's far more static as a boxer, and a bit more sort of rigid, and far less kind of head movement, I thought this could be quite an easy fight for Francis. I thought Francis hits like a truck, and I'm looking at the picture there at the weigh-in, and I think AJ's reach was longer than Francis as well. Anyway, all of the things I thought were going to happen did not happen. Far from it. In the first round, I think it again, AJ dropped him, and it was like, oh, okay, and yeah, and then
I thought Ngannou looked good for about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
he looked good for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Then I don't know if it was like time he kind of switched to southpaw or something like that, and then I said he got dropped in round one, and then I don't know that he fully recovered. Yeah,
and
made it into round two, and then got dropped again, and I think really was kind of out of it when he stood back up, and then got absolutely flatlined. Like that was one of the most devastating knockouts I think
it's one of the best right hands I've ever seen.
That was phenomenal.
And it come from the bottom of his boots, and my God, it was. I mean, Francis was out.
Yeah. We've never seen Francis. It took a long time for him to get back to his feet. He was stiff as he was. He was down for a long time to get the oxygen in and all that stuff. Like, great to see that Francis was up talking. I think he's done like a post-fight press conference where he was chatting, and he sort of made jokes of like, I didn't even feel the punch. That's how you know you've been knocked out.
Yeah.
And so he was with it enough, which is great to see. But that kind of knockout that we've never seen from Francis Ngannou really, I don't know. I think I've just seen, is that Izzy in the background there? I'm not sure. But
what it does, it really highlights the fact that I guess when you're fighting at this level, based on this fight, that there's people that are at the top of their discipline, yes. and to come across when you're far more skilled in more disciplines, but maybe not at that level of boxer. We saw it highlighted here, and I'm no fan of Anthony Joshua. He's not a big favourite of mine as a fight fan. And I did think Francis was going to beat him, but the performance he put on was clinical, and it definitely, when I think he initially looked at that fight before the Fury fight, when it was mentioned as a bit of a farce, and I think he must have, like all of us, watched Francis against Tyson Fury and gone, my God, I thought he won it, but put in the performance of a lifetime against the best boxer on the planet.
But I think Joshua was training properly for this fight.
I think so.
I think Fury probably wasn't, and I think that's what we saw. I think we saw proper levels, If
AJ would have lost, where the fuck does he go after that?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, but what's next for? I mean, you're more of a boxing fan than me. What's next for Anthony Joshua? Does he fight the winner of Usyk Fury, even though he's got 2 losses to Usyk? Like, how does that work?
I guess Fury's ringside, and. Yeah, obviously there's a big fight coming up between these two. Fury's finally going to fight Usyk. For me, I want to see Usyk win. I'm a big fan of Usyk. I do think it becomes more problematic if Usyk wins because, he's got the win, and does the world want to see AJ Usyk again? No. I don't think so. Does the world want to see AJ versus Tyson Fury? Of course.
It could be, they're saying it could be one of the biggest boxing fights of all time, filling out a stadium. Like AJ Fury should be a massive fight. And after, has he got back? How many wins on the bounce has AJ had now? He obviously had the problems with Usyk, but then he came back. He won one recently against like a Swedish bloke. Is it just two? But this was incredibly high profile and probably one of the easiest fights he's ever had.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly high profile. And I think that does really spark the kind of interest in what AJ does next, especially if it is for maybe British boxing, ideally, against Tyson Fury. What I'm more interested in as an MMA fan
is... What
does Francis do next? Now, I should try and look for my phone, which is just over there, actually, because I put out a poll about whether or not this loss to AJ dampens people's excitement for his return to MMA. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it? And I'm going to pull up the results of the poll.
Look, we never thought we was going to see Francis knocked out like that. So obviously, when you see a fighter get stopped like that, it does make you think, he's not the machine we thought he was. But you get caught by someone like Anthony Joshua, you go to sleep. You get caught by Francis Ngannou, you go to sleep. For me, if I was Francis, I would potentially look to fight maybe Zhang. I don't know how much money's in that and stay in boxing.
Even though Zhang lost to Parker.
Zhang lost to Parker, but I don't know if Parker would want to fight Francis Ngannou. I don't know if that's...
a lot of big boxers would love to fight Francis, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Is he not like... Even though he's never had a win on his boxing record, is he not like hugely high profile and arguably the easiest fight for them?
Possibly. But I think, do you want, that shot at the belt? And it's weird because Parker is from the same camp as Fury. They're very good friends. So I don't think that fight's got any chance of happening soon. Maybe if Usyk wins, I think Parker could fight Usyk. There's another fighter that's got huge hands that's floating about that no one's mentioned yet, which is Deontay Wilder, coming off a loss to Parker. So Deontay Wilder versus Francis Ngannou, that's a big fight with two monster hitters.
In boxing,
yeah. I mean, Deontay's also...
Are you interested in that? Like, Francis is 0-2 now. Mm-hmm. One performance was incredible. Mm-hmm. One performance was about as bad as it could possibly ever get.
Right. Okay, so this is...
Do you really feel like Deontay versus Francis is something that would sell and you would genuinely be interested in boxing?
I would rather watch Francis fight Deontay Wilder than I would watch Francis fight anyone in the top 10 in the PFL Bellator.
Wow.
Who would you like to see him fight?
Well, this is an interesting one, but like going back to the poll, 88% of our people that answered the poll said no, it doesn't dampen their excitement for his return to MMA at all, which I love to hear that. I love to hear that.
But Blake,
the problem is...
There's no one there to
There's
fight
no
him.
one there that's exciting to fight.
That's why the boxing thing happened.
Well, the Renan Ferreira fight...
and the money was.
Renan Ferreira fight...
Really?
Is it interesting? Maybe. Renan Ferreira is a really big dude. He hits hard. But... No, I think the PFL brought Francis Ngannou in to go, this guy is the best heavyweight on the planet. He never lost his UFC title and now he fights for us. And what ideally the PFL would like is to feed him contender after contender after contender, and Francis just annihilates all of them. And the PFL continually go, if you want to see the baddest man on the planet, you come to the PFL and you watch him here. Because John Jones didn't want to fight him for 3 years that he could have moved up in weight and fight him. He waited till Francis left the UFC to go up to heavyweight. So it's not John Jones, it's Francis Ngannou. But seeing him in that place, even though it was in a different sport, completely just flatlined, makes me wonder if people will go, Do you know what I mean? Just be less excited about seeing him fight in general because of that. Because the mystique of this guy that only ever lost to Stipe because of wrestling and Derek Lewis in just a whatever fight. Like, some of the mystique I think has gone. You know that he can be absolutely knocked out now and in devastating fashion. But
he can do that as well. Look at what he's done. Look at his highlight reel.
I know, of course. But I just think. Can you say the baddest man on the planet is Francis Ngannou after seeing him like that?
No.
Even though it's obviously the thing to consider is that if that was a cage and they had 4-ounce gloves and Francis Ngannou was allowed to kick him and take him down, probably would have smashed him up. But I don't know. It's a tricky one. How the optics of just seeing someone like that, even though it's a different sport, I think does change your opinion of them slightly.
I think so, and maybe more for the sort of casual fight fan. You know, they might not be as excited. I don't think any. I mean, the pubs were heaving on Friday watching this fight because I think a lot of people like AJ. I think a lot of people don't like AJ after maybe some of his behaviour following the Usyk fight and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people want to see AJ get knocked out. I think people love Francis Ngannou because his story is remarkable. Yeah. And he's such a humble guy. I don't know. I mean, you speak to Tom Aspinall, you speak to any of these heavyweights, and they say, look, it's heavyweight. You know, look at the Pavlovich fight. It could have gone any way within 5 seconds because these people hit like trucks. And I think your casual combat sports fan will go, oh, yeah, he's done, isn't he? And of course he's not done. He's been knocked out by one of the greatest boxers, you know, to come out of, you know, in the world over the last 10 years. Not fighting in his sport. He's gone and fought in MMA. I do think there's not enough hype in the PFL and Bellator in that division to excite or make money for Francis. I think Francis will look at that and say they offer him $1 million to fight.
Well, isn't his contract that he gets like $5 million and his opponent gets $2 million? That is the contract.
But what could he get fighting Deontay Wilder?
Well, I don't know. After that loss, 0-2 in boxing. See, for me, I would like to see things just go a little bit more unique. I would go, the Renan Ferreira fight's just not really going to do it for anyone. I don't think that's going to draw in big numbers. You've got at least, I think it's something like a $7 million purse just on that main event because in Ngannou's contract, he said that his opponents must be paid $2 million. Renan Ferreira's laughing all the way to the bank. Francis Ngannou's earning his $5 million. How can the PFL justify that? Because will they earn that pay-per-view money back? If Francis had won this fight, he would have stayed in boxing, let's be honest. But just say in a hypothetical world that Francis beat Joshua, or not even beat Joshua. He was very competitive. Let's say Francis Ngannou lost a decision against Joshua. And I don't even mean a split decision. I mean a decision, but where he kept up with him. He was competitive. He lost a lot of the rounds, but he had moments. Maybe he knocked Joshua down or wobbled him towards the end of the fight. That Ngannou, 0-2 record, going into the PFL to fight Renan Ferreira, I think people are like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see this guy back in MMA. He gets a win because he hasn't won a fight in a while now. He gets a win and then he can move back into boxing, whatever. I don't know that him fighting Deontay in boxing now is overly interesting. Where I would be interested is if the PFL said, Renan Ferreira is just not a big enough star. We're not going to make enough money on this. Yeah. Let's bring in Deontay Wilder. Mm-hmm. Let's give him 4-ounce gloves. Maybe they allow kicks, or maybe they don't. I don't know. No takedowns. Let's do mixed. Let's just have fun. Let's just mix this up a bit and say to Deontay, although Deontay's legs are quite skinny, I think Francis kind of kicked his legs, he'd be in trouble. But let's give him 4-ounce gloves and let's do, I don't know, like just a different, like you can clinch. Let's make something fun. Let's do
one championships do it, don't they?
Let's do one championship. Let's do something like that where you know Deontay's going to have the advantage with the hands.
Yeah.
Because he's a boxer. Yeah. He's going to have the advantage. So we give Ngannou something else just to kind of even the odds a little bit, make it a hybrid fight. I think people would be intrigued by that. I'd be way more intrigued to go, how are they going to do this? They're going to allow some kicks or they're going to allow like clinches. The ref isn't going to break them up from the clinch too much.
That's the biggest payday for Deontay Wilder right now, and the biggest payday, I think, for Francis Ngannou.
I think so too.
To put Deontay Wilder in an octagon in the PFL where he can kick, I think you might have nailed it there, mate. I think that's the most exciting option right now. I think for Francis to box Deontay, there's loads of money in it, but I think Deontay Wilder throws at range so well, I think he would knock him out.
And then what does he do when he's 0-3? Because are you interested in
retire with a lot of money?
Well, yeah, but are you interested in Francis Ngannou trying to build up a boxing resume? I'm not.
No, but are you interested in Francis Ngannou being the heavyweight champ in the PFL?
I'm more interested in that.
Yeah, but once he's beaten the champ, then what? Just nothing.
Well, I'd like to see him get a win. Here's the other thing.
Ryan Bader.
But here's the other thing. What if he goes to the PFL, fights Renan Ferreira, and loses?
Yeah.
I mean, Renan Ferreira's 6'7". He's a big dude, hits hard. What if Francis Ngannou, who, let's be honest, that knockout to Joshua, that's one of those knockouts that takes something out of your career, maybe out of your life.
Yeah.
Like, that is quite devastating. What if he goes in there against Renan Ferreira lands a right hand, and all of a sudden Ngannou's looking up at the lights again? What happens then? And the PFL have lost their biggest star. I don't know. It's not a bad place.
We
for
need a
Ngannou
boxer to come into the octagon that isn't bloody James Toney. Like we need to see somebody come over that is a really skilled striker, because the MMA fighters are taking their gloves off and they're doing bare knuckle, or they're fighting in the what do you call it fights, the game bred fights, and you know, all of these things are messing with it now, and I enjoy it. I enjoy some of it, you know, and I think no one seems to be keen to go the other way and get into the octagon.
Clarissa Shields.
Clarissa Shields,
yeah. But other than that,
yeah, and I'll be interested to see what happens there.
Well, she's struggled a bit with Sonola, but she'll never be like a champ, I don't think.
But I don't know. I think for somebody to really bring attention to it, like Francis did going into boxing, I think Tyson Fury has gobbed off that he'd do it, and you just think, never in a million years. Never in a million years. And I think Deontay Wilder, now's his time to do that, because it will be the biggest payday he get. Who's he going to fight? Joseph Parker? Is there that many people that are interested in Joseph Parker versus Deontay Wilder? Maybe not. And I think, but for him, Deontay Wilder, to fight Francis Ngannou back in Francis's backyard, that's marketable. And the winner fights Mike Tyson.
I think also that's something that the PFL should be strongly considering, because that separates them from the UFC.
Yeah.
At the moment, the PFL have got the seasons, which people are not overly into, I don't think, but you know, they've got something a bit different. Bellator had the Grand Prix tournaments, which I always liked the idea of, but stuff always sort of went wrong and they never quite lived up to the expectation that I wanted, and sometimes I just forgot they were even happening. You have to sort of separate yourself from the UFC to say, we know the UFC is number one, but we're doing something slightly different here, which is going to be interesting. And saying we're bringing over an ex-world champion boxer to fight Francis Ngannou in the cage in a mixed rules fight, a hybrid fight, I think that is something where people would go, what's that? Okay, that sounds different. I'm intrigued. I'm interested to see how that would go. And they might part with their money to watch it. Yeah.
I think as a mixed martial arts fan, as a boxing fan, that's the fight I think would be the most, the thing that would get me a little bit excited.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who else there is for Francis to box at that level that I think would be exciting and winnable after seeing what happened at the weekend. But do you know what? I'm so happy that Francis Ngannou walked out there with 15 million quid.
Oh, yeah.
And because, you know, what a wonderful human being. Like every time you see him, so humble, so cool. And yeah, it was just, wasn't nice to see what happened. Quite like the fact that AJ was super humble, didn't celebrate, you know, just post-fight was very, very humble as well. Hopefully we see a new look AJ, and ideally, as much as I want to see Usyk beat Tyson Fury, if we could one day see Tyson, I don't want Fury and AJ to become Mayweather, Pac-Man. I don't want it to be 10 years after it should have happened, and it be like watching Mike Tyson fighting. I want to see it now while they're both, high-level heavyweights. But I don't know. From what I gather, what you see with the kind of Tyson Fury, I can't imagine he's the easiest person to work with. He calls out everyone. He says he's going to get in the octagon and beat everybody else, John Jones, and he's called them all out. But I don't know. I guess that kind of chat is the Conor McGregor thing, isn't it? You call everyone out, you keep chatting, everybody's talking about you. Yep. And but yeah, let's see what happens with the Usyk Fury fight, and let's see if Deontay Wilder, follows through on his initial stories of saying he'd get in the octagon, because I think it'd be fun.
I think that'd be fun. I think that's the main word. Right, well, there you go. I think that is the end of our little foray into boxing. If you haven't watched our post-UFC 299 show, please check that out. That should be out already. Amazing card that was. Incredible night. Sean O'Malley doing well. Dustin Poirier, an MVP who we had on the show. If we haven't seen our interview with him, we had a great interview with him in this studio. And also, hopefully, coming out next week, we will have Reece McKee, who is a UFC fighter fighting Chidi Njokwani March 30th, and Carl Frampton.
Gonna say, boxing fans, we've got Carl Frampton on next week. How good's that? If you like boxing, arguably the greatest boxer to ever come out of Ireland. He will be on here. We've had that chat. We also got his thoughts on how he thought the AJ Francis fight would go, and we talk about Cole's upbringing and fighting in Ireland, and the sort of political stance of where he was with what was going on in boxing. And we also talk about somebody that was a huge inspiration, a massive part of his career, that was Barry McGuigan, and obviously his son Shane, that was his trainer, and obviously things have kind of gone a little bit south there, and we touch on that as well. It's a great episode, and Cole's a fantastic man. It was a really good episode, and I was fanboying out. I'm a big Cole Frampton fan.
Lovely bloke, really nice guy.
Yeah, that's coming your way soon. So the best thing you need to do, click subscribe below this screen. And if you're not watching this and you've not watched the show yet, go have a watch, because it's over on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything to go and watch it. And we're putting a lot of time and effort into making this look nice and swish for you. So go and give it a look. But if you are a sucker for a podcast, that's cool. But you can subscribe on whatever platform you listen to it on, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, whatever. Just click the subscribe there. We're on the socials. We're always active, probably most on Instagram. Any guests you'd like to hear us chat to, please message us. And just sling us a message. Let us know what you think of the show, and give us a follow while you're over there too.
Yep, and we want to maybe try and do something for UFC 100. We'd like to do something a little bit special if we can.
We're going to go back in time to UFC 100.
We're going to go back in time. But
Did you mean 300?
Did I not say 300?
You said 100.
Maybe I just said it so quickly you didn't hear the 3. But yeah, so we want to do obviously our usual pre and post fight show. But if you've got any ideas of what you'd like to see us do, anything special for UFC 300, then let us know.
Absolutely. You got any ideas?
No.
No.
Bye.
Bye.